Welcome back to the XandO Sports Show. I'm your host, Ricky G. Stanley, and today we're going to do part 2 of our draft series. We actually had 259 picks. Not bad. Only thing is, I saw what Deion Sanders posted, and he said out of 259 picks, there were not one HBCU player selected. I think he has a point. But, I think those kids will eventually get signed by somebody if they're good enough. But I think that even with North Dakota State starting to put out players, tight ends, and quarterbacks, I think eventually they're going to start looking lower to actually get some of these players out of the HBCUs. I remember when I played at North Carolina Wesleyan, we played in Division III. And I remember one of the guys we had to play was Pierre Garçon, and he did get selected in the first round from Division III. So I think that Deion has a chance to actually get some of his players drafted, and I think it would make the draft a little bit more interesting when it comes to players coming from all over the place. But today is part 2 of our series, and let's start with some good news as of who did well in the draft. We always have some teams that do well, some teams that did okay, and some teams that did not help their franchise at all. So at the top of the board, some people actually laughed when they saw like who I had listed with the A+, and who did bad. But the very top of my list was Atlanta. I know I kind of criticized you guys about getting Kyle Pitts because that really wasn't a position you needed, but they did finish off their draft strong, so they got an A+ from me. So let's start off with Atlanta. They actually had the only position they actually didn't get off their board that they had was quarterback. I had no problem with that because they really don't need a quarterback. So they selected Kyle Pitts at number 4. They got some much needed help in the secondary with Richie Green, Darren Hall, Avery Williams, and they added some depth to the O-line, which they really needed. So, like I said, with Atlanta, they had a lot of holes that need to be filled, but most of them were on defense. I felt like Kyle Pitts' position could have went to a defensive player, but he's a once every 10 years type guy, kind of like Vernon Davis or Antonio Gates. He's that type. And I think his hands are way better than like Jimmy Graham when he got in the league. So I feel like you can't really turn a blind eye and don't get Kyle Pitts. So good job, Atlanta. I'll give you an A+ for your grades. All right, then the second team is Jacksonville Jaguars. They started the night off hot with Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence, everybody knew he was going first overall. But they also followed up with Travis Etienne, a running back that played for Clemson. And he's very explosive. He can play in the slot, so he will help him out a lot. So after that, they added some players in the secondary with Tyson Campbell out of Georgia, and they also added some depth with safety and D-line, capping it off with a tight end and a wide receiver. So they went heavy on offense, and they're going to need it because this year I never felt like their defense was solely the problem, but the offense didn't put enough points. So I think with Trevor Lawrence coming in, rookie and all, I think he got a good chance of, at least going 6-10. So, of course, next on our list is, the one and only Philadelphia Eagles. They got an A+ from me. Now, I'm not one of those Eagle fans that whatever they say is gold. I'm very critical of them. So, let's be real, and I feel like they did a good job with drafting this year. They started off with Devontae Smith, the Heisman Trophy winner, and we moved up from 12 to 10 to actually pick him. Like I said, if he stays healthy, he has a great chance of being an impact player and possibly in the running of Rookie of the Year. I don't think he would win it unless he has a lights-out year, but I think he got a good chance because if I watch what Jefferson did last year for Minnesota, if he could do something he could do something similar to that and get us at least to possibly be in the playoffs, he definitely have my vote. Like I said, he has to stay healthy, and he's going to have to play hard because we're not in exactly the best conference on our side, but he's going to have to play against some top-tier talent. So, good luck. All right, then we go next to Landon Dickerson. So we stay on the Alabama route. Now, this guy is actually kind of unique because I've never seen too many centers that are 6'6" and play center. I've seen guys that play center, move to tackle if needed, but he's strictly a center at 6'6". That is tall. That's a tall glass of water. So I feel like at 6'6", he had a lot of leverage, especially in the run game. The pass game, they said he didn't give up not but 1 sack in the 2 years that he did play and actually start. The asterisk was about his health. Now, he said he had 2 lower body injuries or whatever. I mean, it happened in college. Like, it's not like, offensive linemen don't get rolled up on their ankles or their knees all the time when they're playing. So, that's a very high impact position down there. So, if he could stay healthy at 6'6", 300 pounds, I would love for him to come and learn behind Travis Kelce and keep on playing. So, good job with that, Eagles. So we actually went and drafted some defensive ends as well as Milton Williams from Louisiana Tech and Coastal Carolina's Teron Jackson, Patrick Johnson of Tulane, and we had a very strong draft after that and picked up, a couple of our needs. I think we picked up a couple special team players, so we're going to need some secondary guys. We have Slay, but I think some of the young guys start to go to the new technique that we have on defense. It's going to be very interesting. All we have to do is beat out the Redskins and the Giants. I think the Cowboys going to self-destruct, but, we'll see. Next up are those sneaky Panthers. The Panthers have been very sneaky. Last year, I think the coach picked every defensive player on all 7 picks. So this year, what does he start off? He starts off with Jace Horn. Like I said in my previous video, we showed that Jace Horn is a top-tier corner coming out of college. He's tall, he's long, and he can run. Like I said, I would love to see him play on the boundary side. He can play to the long side as well, but I would like to see him get on the bigger type receivers and let, Jackson do his thing on the other side. So, next they picked Terrace Marshall Jr., who adds some size and receiver to that receiver core. The 2 guys that Carolina has, I want to say they're smaller stature guys, but they could run. They could play receiver, but by him being a little bigger, I like to see him play on the outside and use those other 2 guys as the single receiver on the other side where he doesn't get jammed as much, or put the other 2 guys in the slot. So he runs 4.38, so, he ain't nothing to sneeze at, and he's pretty quick. All right, so they also select a couple pieces of defensive end, which they will need. Good job on Panthers. I think you guys had actually a pretty good draft. I know you didn't get the quarterback that you wanted, Deshaun Watson, this season. Off season, but I think the one you got is serviceable. So let's see what happens. Next is the Dolphins. They did surprise me with the Jalen Waddle pick. I didn't see that coming. I just knew they were going after Smith. But like I said, he serves 2 purposes. He would actually be a a punt return guy or return guy. Like I said, he could play in the slot. He could do the jet sweeps. And he could take and blow the top off of a defense. He can run. Like, he can really run. Like Tyreek Hill type running. So, like I said, I like that pick. And, of course, they won me over with the second pick of Jalen Phillips. Like, that guy's a beast. 6'6", 260. Running 4.5 and come off the edge. And, he wreaks havoc and has very good instincts. So, I feel like they can work on his technique in the pros. I think Jalen Phillips could be something, of the Jason Taylor's type story. So if he's healthy, I think it'd do very good. He could also play inside on top of the guards on 3rd down. Dolphins watch out for that. I think he can do that because he got a big stature, and it's not like he has to stop the run on 3rd and 15. So get in there and give those guards some what. So Dolphins also have added some safety, offensive line, which is a position they needed. They checked off all the boxes, and they did a very good job with drafting. Now, all they have to do is coach them. Now, I saw that Flores actually got some guys that he felt like that are coachable. So, it's not always about, hey, who has the best talent. Are they coachable? That is a big point in case. So, those teams I listed are what we call A-plus draft classes. Like I said, they don't have to have the most elite talent, but if you selected all your players and didn't have to reach to get a player, and you got good quality picks for the picks you have, that's will give you a good grade. If you have to reach for somebody that was pretty much supposed to be in the 5th round and you got him in the 2nd or 3rd, you don't get no points for that. So, New England. So the Ravens did a good job as well. So everybody else is right now is between A and A-, which they didn't do bad, but I feel like they kind of missed on a pick or 2, but this is just splitting hairs. So like I said, Ravens did a good job. Of course, they did a good job with helping Lamar Jackson. The question was, And I think that GM heard my criticism about getting him some weapons so he can do his thing. So he did get him 2 good receivers. And I say good as in my point of view. Everybody don't have to say, oh, he came out of Minnesota. That guy can play. So I can't wait to see him actually get out there and open it up for Lamar Jackson. So Rashad Bateman out of Minnesota, he's a quick and strong receiver. I'm going to watch him closely because I think he has a very strong chance of playing the starting outside receiver. Y'all watch that. I think he has a good chance. If he's healthy and grasps that playbook and the concepts they're calling, he's big, he's strong, and I think that he is what Lamar Jackson needs on the outside. You know, Hollywood Brown, hey, I mean, I'm pretty sure he could play on the other side, but I think he's more deadly in the slot and getting the ball in his hands quick. You know, Hollywood could take the top half off, but he needs some help on the outside. So I think this kid is it. So let's see, moving on to their next pick. They hit, I'm going to butcher this kid's name, Odafe Oweh from Penn State. They beefed up the O-line. Well, that's actually a linebacker, but after that, they actually beefed up the O-line. They got Ben Cleveland, picked up 2 corners, Brandon Stevens and Sean Wade. The next pick they had to me, I watched this kid, and he was a little banged up for the past 2 years. Well, he got banged up the previous year, but this year he played pretty good, even though his team wasn't well. Watch out for this guy, too. Tylan Wallace out of Oklahoma State. He can play. He plays a little bigger than what he really is. He's right about 6 foot, but he can go up and high point the ball, you know, with the best of them. So I like the way he plays. He got some good speed, and he has no problem high pointing the ball. So I think he will also be in the running for the Z or the X position on the outside for the Ravens. Next on our list are the LA Chargers. LA Chargers, good draft as well. Now, a lot of people was like, oh, well, what do they need to pick? They need to get an offensive lineman. You got a quarterback, you need to protect him. So what they do, they go out and got Rashad Slater with a 13 overall pick. Solid pick. They also went and got a pretty good corner. Normally, I would say he's solid, but I think he's a good corner, especially in their style. I think they're going to put him in a little bit of zone. So Asante Samuel Jr. will be on that roster. His dad is Asante Samuel Sr. So this would be very interesting because everybody knows Asante Samuel Sr. was a ball hawk playing for the Eagles as well as playing for the Patriots. So he picked up another offensive threat, Josh Palmer from Tennessee, as well as a tight end for Georgia. I said they bulked up the defensive side with D-line, linebacker, a safety, as well as building their roster up. So I think they have a very solid draft. And I feel like with the future and what they hold, I think their ceiling is going to go up. Like I said, they covered all the bases. Even though if those linebackers only play special teams, that's a position that your starter don't have to play. Next is Buffalo. They filled a lot of roster spaces. They didn't need it. Like I said, they had some very interesting prospects. First pick was Gregory Rousseau. Finally got his name right. He's a Miami Hurricane, but I've been butchering his name for the last week. So, like, he's very long, rangy defensive end. I really feel like he is better in a 4-3 technique, playing on the strong side, not the weak side. So, like I said, you know, some people's like, oh, he didn't test as well. He only ran 4.6. The dude is 6'6". The fact that he ran a 4.6, I'm worried about his explosion more than his 40 time. So sometimes his get off is long to me. Like, he's very long. He's kind of, you know, lunky, if that's a word. So, like, he gets off and it doesn't look explosive to me, but he gets after it. And so, like, I was like, well, if you work on that get off, I think he'd be pretty good. Like I said, he's 6'6 and a half, 265. I don't know if he's strong enough up top to go down inside on third down, but, you know, we'll see. Somebody said, like, oh, he could be moved to defensive tackle if he gains some weight. Yeah, but that's not always good for all players. So, like I said, the next pick, they went back to the D-line with Carlos Basham Jr. He's out of, I think, Wake Forest. So they added some depth on the D-line. They also bulked up the O-line with 2 picks on the offensive line as well from Northern Iowa and Miami, Ohio. Picked the defense for defensive backs. Like I said, they took all their picks and done very well. I feel like the Bills had a good draft. like I said, a couple of those defensive backs, I mean, they'll play well, but those are when I was being very nitpicky with their draft. I mean, you can pick defensive backs to fill your roster for special teams, but you got to get them to cover. They got to actually cover in college, and not call those guys out, but they weren't the best in coverage. But the Vikings done well as well. I love the offense that they picked up as well. They picked up Kellen Mond from Texas A&M. I watched this guy as a freshman the first year Jimbo Fisher left Florida State. And Kellen Mond, he surprised me because I just thought he was some dual threat that's going to run all the time. But everybody knows that watch Jimbo Fisher, he's very hard on quarterbacks. I mean, Kellen Mond stayed there for all 4 years with Jimbo. I was actually proud of that. He actually played and threw the ball pretty well from the pocket. So by him actually being able to sit behind Thurl Cousins for a year, maybe two, I think he'll be ready to take over if Thurl Cousins has to leave. Like I said, give a year or two. They picked up some depth at linebackers, secondary players, and the D-line. So I feel like the Vikings had a very good draft. Maybe in an hour or so, I think I'm going to talk to a Vikings fan. So see how he thought about his draft. The last team on my A-list, the Chicago Bears. That was a ballsy jump to go and get Justin Fields because, A, they could have got really messed up in this draft if Justin Fields was their guy the whole time and he went number 3. What do you do then? Do you go after defensive players? Your defense is not the problem. You needed a quarterback. And outside of Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence, nobody else I feel like could do that Matt Nagy's offense. No offense from that kid from Alabama. And I feel like the kid from, where is he from? Lord have mercy. North Dakota State. I feel like that kid, I just feel like he didn't have enough in college to run an offense like that yet. Like, I mean, he could run with the football, but when you're that size and you're that big, people have been playing against Cam Newton for a couple years now. So when Cam kind of got in the league, he was big, he was strong, but nobody really had played anybody that size. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger is big and strong, but he couldn't run. Like, Cam could run. But the fact that Cam been in the league for 10 years and they're used to hitting him, they're going to tear that boy head off if he can't throw the football. So, like I said, Justin Fields was their best option at running that offense and saving Matt Nagy's job. So, Justin Fields, okay, great pick. I think that he did not like that pick himself. More so, I don't think he didn't like getting drafted them. I think he was pissed that those other guys went before him. And he has the right so because they're not better than him. They haven't proved it. So, like I said, Justin Fields, you have that big chip on your shoulder. I want you to show it. Wheel those Bears to the playoffs this year as a rookie. See what you got. Like I said, he looked very pissed. And like I said, he proved it through the Big Ten. He almost got to a national title, and he went up against Clemson and Alabama, those big-time teams. So he already proved that he can play. But the fact that people don't understand, when you fall out of the top 10, now it's affecting your money. Top 3 and top 4 picks, you're guaranteed a lot more money. Once you drop out of the top 10, that guaranteed contract is not as big. I know people are like, well, it's not all about the money. Sometimes it is. So let's see. What else did they pick? They added some much-needed depth on the O-line, 2 weapons on offense with the running back, receiver. Like I said, good job to the Bears. I feel like they did an actual pretty good job. And like I said, they will have Tyreek Cohen back this year. So I think that they have some explosion on offense with Justin Fields' athletic ability. I think he'll be good. All right, so let's go to who did not so well. The first one, now, I put an asterisk by it because of the way I graded them, and I'll let you know why. So the Seattle Seahawks are on that list, but the Seattle Seahawks only had 3 picks. And I felt like they didn't have an early pick, but they waited late into the draft to get an offensive tackle. Come on, Seattle. Like, y'all got it. That man asked for offensive help on the line so he don't have to get hit as much, and you wait that long to get an offensive lineman. But they got an explosive offensive weapon, that slot receiver, so I think he'll be pretty good. San Francisco and the Jets, you all know how I felt about those picks. Trash and terrible. And I don't know which one is worse, trash or terrible. I guess they could fall in between, which is like that juice underneath a trash can. Yeah, that's what I feel about their draft. Like I said, both the picks picked the quarterback. It's pretty much, I feel like it's going to be a flop. You can put all the weapons you want around those guys, but the test of time is going to show can they play. Now, I think San Francisco quarterback has a higher chance of being a bust. The Jets quarterback, he can get away with going, 9-7, 8-8 a couple years. But San Francisco, you got the best play caller in the NFL outside of Andy Reid. If he doesn't win with him, that clearly shows that you're not ready for that position. I feel like it's not that he lacks the sense to play the game. I just feel like he hadn't played long enough to prove that he was the number 3 overall pick. Prove me wrong, kid. The Jets, like I said, the Jets reached for an offensive guard, which I feel like you shouldn't have to reach for that position. Most of the time, unless this dude is lights out and very big and agile, he's not going early. He's probably going to go mid to late first round, if not second round. So they reached for an offensive guard. That wasn't smart. Jets didn't do too terrible with the running back selection. Like I said, but the rest of the draft was mediocre. As for the San Francisco draft, like I said, it was mediocre as well, and had some current picks that just made pretty much make your job harder. If you have a system that works, that's okay if guys buy into it. But sometimes you will need talent, because you can have a great team, guys that fall into the system and play good technique. But every now and then you will get your hind parts handed to you by a better team. I feel like San Francisco, I don't know which side of the stick they're going to fall on, but if they get handed to them by Kyle Shanahan, I guess he'll be do YouTube like me. Let's see. The only team I felt that did worse than these two teams were the Texans. The Texans drafted like it was their first time doing it. Like, it was terrible. Like, they would have the number 1 pick for sure next year. They're going to probably go 2-14 if they don't get Watson back and if they don't get some weapons around them. So if I didn't read off your team, that does not mean you had a bad draft. That means you between a B category, like I said, but this episode would be over in a whole hour if I went over every single team's draft. So if I didn't call your team, you did okay. Kind of like the Steelers. Like, I feel like they did okay with the running back they selected from Alabama. Like I said, but I wanted to get on to the worst teams before I got, going to all the other depth stuff. Like I said, games aren't won in the draft, but drafting good players actually help and make life easier for you. So this is part 2 of my draft series. Stay tuned for our next episode. I think it should be episode 16. I'm your host, Ricky G. Stanley, and I am out of here.